everyone, and welcome to our talk about the callback list management system with our new Cerner that's launching in a couple of weeks. So, results callback system. It's really a new way of doing the old thing that we used to do. You launch the new callback system, which replaces the old culture callback system that we had, which was paper-based, by clicking on the result callback button here, which opens the interface. It is a much more capable system than our old paper-based system, and it is much easier to use. It includes cultures, which we are used to, but it also includes much more. The good thing is that all clerks, nurses, NPs, PAs, MDs have access to it from launch point by clicking the results callback. So how are things changing? It's a system for checking for significant delayed results ordered in the ED that come back after the patient has been discharged and left the emergency department. They still include all cultures and microbiology results, both preliminary and final. And it is for patients who have left the ED, as I said, before the results were completed. It is not for admitted patients. It also includes the results from directives, and it is not for results ordered by other than emergency physicians. So we're following up emergency tests. It does not include DI discrepancies. These are remaining the same. Then they run through our IDS-7 PACS system with no change in the process. So what is new? What is new is that on top of culture sensitivity results, this is also where significant lab results will be reported on patients who have left the emergency department. These are according to the standard lab procedures and process for which results they consider critical, as well as we have a tab for positive troponin ordered by a physician, emergency physician, or through directive. The biggest change is that it's not now a point-in-time system like we had in the culture and sensitivity, where we used to print all the results on paper at 3 o'clock in the morning. It is now continuous and live. It populates with any results that is reported at any time, day or night. This means that we can bring this now from a point-in-time workload that was for the clerk at 3 o'clock in the morning and the 7 o'clock physician or provider, to now making it part of our standard work all day long. We can keep checking this whenever we want and dealing with the results as they come. This means that we have a much smaller volumes of things we have to deal with. It is fully electronic. There is no paper. So a result comes back electronically. We communicate electronically. We document our actions electronically. And finally, we file the whole thing electronically so there are no papers to be sent to medical records for scanning. It's inherent into it. It includes the communication systems between prescribers and other members of the emergency department through either status changes or comments that you put on the file, and they show up in the list. Prescribers can anytime filter their own patients, and when they do that, they can attend to any test that they have ordered with the results that came in late without having to wait for the system, for the patient to go through the system. So why does it vary between sites? The process is really the same while being different. It is the same because the tool is the same. The reporting is the same. The hierarchy of reports is the same. The report selection is the same. Really, there is no difference in the tool. What is different is different staffing models. A large site like St. Catharines or Niagara Falls has different staffing models than Welland, which has a nurse practitioner, and a different staffing model than the urgent care centers, where they're time limited, there's no clerks, etc. So the principles of the process will be the same, and we'll go through them in a minute, but the roles are performed by different staff members. What a clerk might do in St. Catharines, a nurse might do in Port Colborne, and etc. And that is why these process local designs are driven by the site managers, because they know what their staffing is like and how it changes during the day or night. So the general process, and this is the same everywhere. you have a result that populates the callback list. This result needs to be reviewed generally by a nurse, charge nurse, or somebody else who's designated to decide if it requires a provider review. A lot of these results don't require a provider review, and that's the end of the story. And in that case, it is marked as no further action required, and the result is filed and done. However, sometimes this needs to be reviewed by a provider. Then the nurse will leave some notes in the chart, and that will make the result give it a status of provider ready for provider review. From there, the provider will review it, and there are multiple possible outcomes. The first is nothing is needed. Mark as no further action, sign it and file it, and it's done. No more paperwork, no communication, nothing needs to be done. It automatically files into the patient's chart. Another option is that the provider might decide to contact the patient. And after contacting the patient, if there's no further actions required, mark as such, and again, it gets filed. Sometimes after you contact the patient, there are still some things that needs to be done. So you can write instructions in the system in terms of comments for other people to fulfill. These tasks could include call the patient again, or fax a script, or fax this to their family doctor, or make this appointment, whatever the instructions may be. Now remember we said there's multiple options. The provider can do nothing, can contact the patient, or can review the chart and just need to leave instructions. The instructions could be a simple contact the patient to return to the ED. And that's it. That's all we need to be done. So you write those, you sign it and leave it. And now the status changes to reviewed by provider, and a clerical staff needs to action those comments. The clerical staff, or in some places maybe nursing staff, can complete these tasks. And if they're completed and done and nothing else that needs to be done, no further action is required. Sometimes you're unable to contact the patient, for example. And in that case, you will generate a letter that is sent by mail or by fax. You can send it either to the provider or to their family physician. And that's, again, what's important when you do that. You also mark it as no further action is required. And what we'll do is we'll close the file all your documentation, and remove it from the list. So let's do a demo. Okay, so here's where we are. We are currently in the tracker or ED launch point, and we're going to launch the results callback module. So here is the button for the results callback, and you click on that, and it will open and populate with all the results that are in the system pending. As we said, these are results that came back after the patient was discharged, and these are tests that were ordered in the emergency department by an emergency physician. They include microbiology, critical lab results, as well as troponins, which will have their own list. So let us start first at the top and take a look at this. The first thing you want to do is you need to pick your facility. So we've included every facility right now, but usually most people are working, for example, in a single location at a single facility, just the emergency department, and we update the list. Okay, I'm going to go back to everyone just so that we can give a larger population of patients to see. However, in real life, you will be only looking at one location. And let's update the list. So let's take a look at the results here. You have patient's name in the first column. You have the results. You have what results are resulted, and you have the status here. And then you see any comments and how long has it been since the last update. You will notice that some of them have no status, and some of them have a provider review required. So let's go through this and see what happens. So let's say, for example, this CO2 came in, and this is the result right now. So if you click on this, on the result itself, it'll give you all the details of it. This is true as well for microbiology. So for example, if you click here on the E. coli, it'll tell you the specimen, where it was collected, etc., etc. I'll make this bigger, and all the information. Now, the first step in reviewing these is for the first reviewer, which is usually either a nurse or a charge nurse or whoever is assigned in that particular department to do so, is to decide if this requires a review by a provider or by a doctor or nurse practitioner. And so you do that by clicking this little arrow next to it. So I'm going to take this one. And this opens this dialog box, which also has patient information, contact information, some other stuff. And let's say in this case, we have decided that we do not need to do anything for this patient. This result is clinically expected and there's nothing else to be done. So all we're going to do is say no further action is required. We're going to sign it. And now if I refresh this, actually it's already gone from the list. In other cases, say these platelets of 15, we're going to open this and we're going to decide, this needs an opinion from a provider. So you can put in some notes here. Let's say, please review platelet count. Patient had minor bleeding. And let us sign this and let's see what happens. And I'm going to close that and refresh. And now this has gone up to the top. It says provider review required. Oh, it's, where is it? Oh, it knows me as a provider. That's why it said reviewed by provider. But if this was an RN or a clerk, this would say provider review required. So let's look at what the provider will do. So let's say I look at this urine culture. I'll open this. I can decide, for example, to call the patient or not. Let's say I called the patient. There was no answer. And I'll say, please call the patient to return to the ED or see their primary care provider in 1 to 2 days. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign this. Now what happens here, because I was a provider and I reviewed this, the status has changed to a review by provider. And you will see here, it says the comments, please call the patient to return to the ED. And say, then the clerk picks it up, or the nurse or whoever is assigned to that task, depending on the site, they made the call. They can do patient contacted, will return tomorrow morning. And this time, because no further action is required, I'm going to click that and sign it. And what should happen here is this should disappear. Now, let's say we went back and we keep calling the patient. Please call the patient for this count, and we cannot find them. So, as a last result, after 1 or 2 days, what we're going to do is we're going to create a letter. So this opens a letter view. You can select from one of the letters templates here. So we can do, for example, results notification if we want. Dear Mr. So-and-so, your attached results are critical. And let me try to use Dragon to finish this documentation. We were not able to contact you from the emergency department, period. Please make sure you contact your primary care provider immediately or return to the emergency department, period. You should return to the emergency department immediately if you have increased signs of bleeding, headache, or feeling unwell, period. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the results to this. Pick up this one, for example, and include it. And it's there. And now we can either preview it or we can print it. So I'm going to print it so it gets faxed, or we can send it to a physician directly if you're sending it to a provider. And now I'm going to hit OK. And now that the letter has been created and printed and being sent to the patient or to their family doctor, we can say no further action required. We will sign this and it will also disappear from the list. So now let's recap. First, this system includes culture sensitivity as well as critical results and troponins that are positive. It is only for discharged ED patient results. It is fully electronic, where you review, document, communicate. There's no paper, there's nothing else to be filed. It's all included within the same system. It is a constant process, not just overnight, so it can be done all the time, around the clock, and that minimizes the work every time we open this so we can stay on top of things. It is really a team effort, but the process does vary by site due to staffing variations. So different people will do different kinds of roles in different sites, but the plan remains the same. I hope you find this helpful. I'm sorry I can't take questions on YouTube, but you know how to get a hold of me if you want to. Thank you very much.